I started on this machine, and this was how I really learned how to be a producer. I didn't know anything about miking a drum kit or recording a vocal. To me, producing meant this machine. That's what my heroes, they were record producers. Like I said, Q-Tip, the RZA, Marley Marl, and this was the machine they used. So that's actually what I thought being a producer meant, that you just knew how to use your machine, you made beats, and then I learned about the other stuff later. But the first real record, the first proper album that I ever got to work on was this amazing singer named Nika. We went in the studio together, and like anything, she came from a bit more of a rock and roll blues background, and we were trying to figure out what our common thread was. And the label Virgin were great because they gave us the time to find the sound. It took a year for us to just keep making demos till we even made the first thing that we really were excited about. I was bringing this influence that I had from the MPC and, the DJ Premier type beats that I was making. And they brought this kind of different rock energy. And so when we all got together, our best stuff was when all those styles kind of meshed together. I mean, I always feel like that's what you're trying to do with music. I mean, it's like you have all these different styles and influences, and they're like Play-Doh. They're like the different colors of Play-Doh, red, yellow, blue, purple, whatever, and you just want to meld them into something so they're your own color. So the record that I made with Nika and Justin that really broke us out of the box and got the label excited was this song that was a merge of all our influences. I was bringing this beat-focused influence, and she had blues and funk and soul. So yeah, so that whole song, the way it comes in, and the beat and the music was something that I made completely on this machine. And Nika had been out, because in the studio they had all this gear and guitars and all these cool amplifiers, and this was all I knew. So I would just be in my corner with the headphones on, just with the turntable, just always doing my thing. If they were working on a new song, they'd play it for me, and I'd be in there trying to find some cool little bits that I could add here. So every now and then when they would go out to take a drive, they would come back and be like, hey, we grabbed you some records in the charity shop, basically. So I remember Nika came back one time and she was like, hey, we were driving around and we saw this guy selling records outside and we grabbed you these. So I did my thing, just kind of listening through the different sides, listening for any kind of sound that got me excited. And there was just this little samples, this little run of notes in some solo that went like, it probably went boo, 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 boo. There's probably even other notes on top of that, right? So I thought that was kind of excited. I was excited by that sound right away, and I just chopped them up and I put them on the pads. It's just literally a chromatic progression. It's just note going up half note at a time and then back down. So I was messing around because it was exciting to me. There was something about the sound of it. You can never really quantify what makes you think, oh, that sample's worth running with or making a track out of, but there's just something in it. It could be the texture, it could be the notes, it could be the instrument that you're sampling. So I had these, and then I knew that I needed to find some banging drums, a nice kick and a snare, something kind of gritty and hard that would support it. And I found this kick, snare, and hat off this other break. So like I said, you have the big kick, and then you have the little kick. It's almost the accent, because that's how a drummer plays. A drummer goes like, ba-boom, cha, ba-boom, boom. A drummer doesn't usually go, ba-boom, ba-boom, boom. Like, that doesn't have any groove to it. That's just like, as opposed to, it's just got more of a natural feel. At least that's, there's some people that like this. I prefer it feels more like a drummer to me, like I said. So we have these samples. So now that's recorded. Now we lay the drums down. And sometimes, you know, that has a very straight quantizing on it. It's really on the beat. I want the drums to feel a bit more groovy and loose, so I might change it and make the drums have a little bit more swing. So it's always good to quantize, you know, the different elements when you're building the track in different ways, if you like. Or not quantize them at all and just give it like a purely human feel. So here's the thing. So that's something in the ballpark of, you know, that's recreating the basic elements of the track. And then something that I learned from my hero Premier was that you want to have the kick and the snare, and you want to have your main music, and then you always want to have some kind of eerie, ethereal sound in there, like a bit of a weirdo sort of curveball sound that just does something interesting. Sometimes it's ear candy, sometimes it can be rhythmic. So that was something that I really copied from him. I mean, I was essentially a Premier clone in the first part of my career. So this was this other sound that was in there. And one of the great things that you can do with these pads is you can push a button that gives this pad 16 different notes. It changes it into 16 different tunings. So you have, and like I said, you don't have to have this machine. You can have a MIDI controller. Any of your DAWs will be able to take this one sample and put it across all different kinds of tunings. So instead of just going like, I could make it go. Just give it a different, you know, give it a bit of a different flavor each time it comes around. So that was the last thing that we kind of added to it. I was working with my headphones on, and Nika was in the back of the room on the couch behind me, and she was working on something, and it was more like, and I could hear she was kind of singing something that was like, coming out of my wishing well, only echoes lonely hear my prayers. And she kept strumming this, and I could tell she was into this idea. I think in my mind I was like, we got enough rocky type tunes on this record. Like, this sounds cool. At that point, we were nearly done with the album. So I think she heard the beat coming out of my headphones. And she started to sing the same melody. Coming out of my wishing well, only echoes only hear my prayers. And I remember we were just all in the room like, whoa, that's cool, because we had never really done anything like that. You know, I had added my little hip-hop production to other songs that were a bit more based in guitar and traditional instruments, but she had never written something to a beat that I had done. And also because she comes from a more of a rock, blues, soul background, I think that if I had played her just the beat, I don't think she would have ever been able to write that song, because it wouldn't have inspired her, and it maybe would have sounded repetitive or boring. But the fact that she had already written it, and then we found that by putting on this thing, was it made it made us all get very excited in the room. And that's something that I've learned, that I've come across quite a lot. Not only are there a lot of happy accidents that happen in the studio, and that's where some of the magic really comes sometimes, but sometimes you can have a great song, but there's something about it that's not doing it. It's the beat, the arrangement. It sounds too old school, or it sounds played out, or it's too traditional to put that kind of melody over that kind of guitar. But then suddenly you completely switch the beat and it does something different. You switch the arrangement, you switch the tools that you're making the music on. And I think that that's something from being a DJ and putting different acapellas over instrumentals my whole life. That's why I'm always just like, cool, there's a great song, a great vocal, a great melody. That's really the only thing that's sacred about any piece of music. That's the thing when we remember our favorite songs, whether it's Elvis, Adele, Michael Jackson.